and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to Nerd Fights! The ultimate showdown where geek culture collides with unfiltered opinions and passionate debates. I'm your host, Mr. Know-It-All, bringing you the latest and greatest from the world of movies, TV shows, and all things nerdy. But hold on to your warp cores because the real captain of this starship is none other than Salty Trekker. So strap in for a wild ride because Lower Decks is back, and we're gonna talk about it, along with Agatha All Along and the Penguin. You don't want to miss it. That means only one thing. It's time to fight. Nerd Fights.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd Fights. I'm, of course, Mr. Know-It-All, your host, and joining me is my co-host, but also the captain of this ship, Salty Trekker. What you got? What's going on there, sir?
Greetings.
How go things in your corner of the space?
That isn't a logical question. A space does not have corners.
There you go.
So, no, I am now, as of, approximately 20 hours ago, I am now a cyborg. So, in fact,
impressed.
Yes. So, yeah. So there is an electronic device now implanted in my body. And actually, I'm actually getting a official medical card that I have to keep with me at all times.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because I can't go through airport security now without setting everything off. Because, I actually have to keep that information so that.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's going on,
I'm not carrying a weapon. I am the weapon. Right now it's just a boatload of pain. But let me tell you real quick, before we get started, how much I love you and I love you guys out there watching the show.
Oh Lord, it must be the pain med talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the pain meds they gave me is Oxy. Which I know is a little controversial to some people, but whatever. But I'm supposed to take one of these pills, and they're pretty potent, one of these pills at maximum every 4 hours. Right?
Okay.
Now, so what did I do so that I could be relatively able to communicate? Because I will tell you, I am in a huge amount of pain. And so what I had to do was, instead of taking it every 4 hours, overnight, I took it every 6 hours, so that about an hour ago, I was able to take 2.
Okay.
Without messing up the schedule.
Without messing up the vibe. The vibe of everything. I got you. Right on.
So I'm actually floating on the effects of 2 Oxy right now.
I'm floating on Oxy.
Yeah, that should be a song. But yeah, I'm going to do the best I can with it. But obviously,
Creed, yes, the man boobs are definitely in check for this guy.
Yeah, they got the man boob restraint device. The funny thing is, this is like a gigantic elastic, like if you think about the elastic waistband that you have in like sweatpants and stuff, it's like a gigantic version of that, except it squeezes a lot harder, and it's holding my guts together basically during the initial healing phase.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, because they cut open my back and kind of filleted me.
Right on. Well, I wish that I had anything even remotely close to that to talk about. I, however, have spent the week sort of kind of putting together some things and kind of going through some stuff. Whole bunch of things happened this week, and of course we're going to talk through them real briefly. We're going to go ahead and discuss what it is that we're going to show today. We're going to be talking first, we're going to address the Penguin because that happened first in the week. We're going to talk about that very, very big turn of events. Then we're going to shift over to Agatha, cover that because it was also there. I say penultimate episode. Come to find out, the finale will be 2 episodes. Just like the premiere was 2 episodes.
I'd still call it the penultimate because they're airing at the same time. It's like on a special 2-hour episode.
Exactly right. That's how I see it also. So, and then lastly, clearly we're talking about Lower Decks And that's the reason we're saving it for the end is because we want to spend the most time on it because Star Trek is our jam and it's sort of where we live and our happiest. So I want to make sure that we spend a lot of time on that at the time. So for right now, though, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some Agatha stuff, or not Agatha, but Penguin. Did you get a chance to see Penguin this week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big episode.
Yeah. Why didn't I watch it yesterday, actually?
So hot on the heels of all the stuff that was going down with Sophia last week, the previous week, we get to see sort of the reorganization of some things this week. So right. She took out the family. Now she's starting her own family. She's taking on her name, the Gigantes, which is funny because in Spanish it's the same word, but a gigante. And so I was like, wait, are they Spanish or are they Italian?
And we had basically, this was the corporate restructuring episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great way to look at it.
Because the Gigantes and I can't remember the name of the other crime family that the lady that smokes 20 packs a day is.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name either, but she's an amazing actress. She's in everything, by the way.
Yeah, I was sad that they killed her off. However, as a piece of motivation for her husband, I think that works. And I like but basically they're setting you up for an interesting climax because we now have Penguin and was it Nick? Is that the kid's name?
Vic. Vic, yeah.
So you have Penguin and Vic basically taking on now the combined remnants of two mafioso families. But honestly, I gotta say, I give advantage Penguin at this point because Penguin has showed he is so good, at manipulating people,
bro. My favorite moment, the whole episode was excellent, but my favorite moment was the very end, because at the very end, that's the closest I believe we're going to get to a lair. Okay.
I told the wife, well, now we know why he lives in the sewers.
Totally. I was like, this is so great. It looks so dope. And then he's like, we're going to run our business out of here and everything. I'm like, that's a lair, bro.
Yeah.
That's a lair. I don't care what anybody says,
but it's
a lair.
But you see, and this is where when we talk about good writing versus bad writing, in the old days, villains had lairs in weird places just because it was cool, right?
Or they were places that for some reason thematically went their get up.
Right. So, he's living in a volcano or he's
exactly.
The Penguin would live in the sewers because the Penguin is a waterfowl. And the sewers would be the logical place for him to be. And like if you look at and I'm sorry to people that think that it was awesome, but I did not care for the second Batman film with Danny DeVito's Penguin.
Really?
But, no,
I did think it went far, but I still felt like it belonged in that universe. Unlike the Schumacher ones that I felt like.
It's way better than the Schumacher films. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying I think they made Penguin was way too grotesque.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, they went. Yeah. I got you. That's Tim Burton all day.
Yeah,
being like, how far can I push?
But notice in that he's just kind of in the sewers because he's obsessed with penguins. It's. There's not a logical reason for him to be there.
No, not at all.
But when you get into good writing...
It's a cartoon movie, or a comic book movie.
Yeah, but when you get into good writing, you can say, okay, Penguin is known to have a lair in the sewers. What's a good reason that you would have a lair in the sewers?
Stanley asked a really good question. He said, does he have enough backup? Is that crew he talked to bigger than they seemed? I absolutely do think they're bigger than they seemed.
Yeah.
He also asked, do those tunnels link up with Gotham Zoo?
Well, he did say they go pretty much everywhere.
Oh my God, I can totally see that so much. That's hilarious. But yeah, I feel like I feel like the guys we saw him talking to are probably their own guys, and they have their own teams of people and stuff.
They have their own gangs.
Yeah, those are
they're loyal to Penguin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's turf war, man.
Yeah, but I think that it's going to be more. It's not like I'm expecting to see Penguin jumping off of rooftops and fighting people. I think that while we may see some gunplay in the streets, the main thing is going to be Penguin outsmarting.
Gunplay in the streets, Penguin
Yes.
in the sheets. Wait, what? No, I got nothing.
Wow, dude, that's
That
doesn't work. Yeah.
Sorry, but no, I feel like
Like that. Now, here's what you have to do. The next time you and Mrs. Know-It-All are
Stop.
feeling intimate,
Sorry, babe.
you're gonna have to go wah 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 wah, and so. And you think I was a penguin in this?
She's upstairs watching. I feel like she's gonna be like, "You better not."
Yeah. See, and now she's gonna be expecting it. So.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's so funny. I felt like Thomas is wow. That's great. Welcome aboard. Thomas like, wow, this is what I tuned into? Yes, it is. I love the fact that I feel like where we're going is okay. So last time I said eventually I think we'll see him with an umbrella or something. I feel like the most you're gonna get is like he's gonna have to defend himself somewhere and like find and just grab one and like swing it around wildly because he just happens to grab it or yank because it's the only piece of trash nearby. I don't necessarily know it's going to be super on, although I didn't think that we'd get an underground lair either, and somehow they made it work because it works.
It absolutely does work, so yeah, I gotta say, of the 3 shows that we're going to be talking about today, Penguin is still, as far as writing and production, the other 2 aren't even close. This is
really good.
This show is one of the best streaming shows I've ever seen, and it's not because people think, oh well, hey, Andor looked really good or whatever. Yeah, but this is it's not just the fact that it looks great; it's that it looks great with a purpose, and the writing is so on. That's what, the thing I've complained about more than anything else for the last 5 years is that Hollywood has forgotten how to write. And
I feel like I think you're right. I think you are correct.
Yeah.
But then you get into stuff. You're right. I don't think either of the other shows. I don't think Agatha or Lower Decks is doing the level of writing the show is doing.
Yeah, I'm not saying they suck. I'm just saying that
they're doing some good stuff too.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a world in which the Penguin writing should. I want to see them not necessarily stop or continue Penguin. I want to see them take the same, whoever these people are, you give them the next thing that needs to be talked about or story that needs to be told in Gotham.
Right.
And let them do almost like their own shared universe. Not that matters. That should be the least important thing. But like have it spin into a thing where maybe maybe Vic is seen on the streets or dealt with, or maybe he has to come tell this other person who we're learning about at the time something. Thomas asked if he's going to run for Gotham mayor. I don't think he's going to run for Gotham mayor, but that would be hilarious.
That would be awesome.
Stan, I don't know if that's a serious question or not, but I'm going to ask you, the Batman screenwriter, so yes and no. I know that Matt Reeves is heavily involved, and he's the one that put all this together. So I feel like he did do the Batman, so I'm pretty sure he had some strong notes to give for that whole thing, keeping it all together, or keeping it very grounded, rather. But what anything particular stand out about the way that Sophia handled things?
Well, I think she's kind of embracing the dark side, so to speak,
right?
And which makes sense.
Yes,
and she wants to show that she's ruthless enough to play with the big boys here, and so I overall I really have zero complaints about this episode of Penguin. I know I don't rate the individual episodes, but this one would definitely get high marks from me.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think they're doing the Lord's work in terms of telling storytelling for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is that there has yet to be an episode of the Penguin series where I felt like, they could have left that one out. So that's and with these streaming services, even though the seasons aren't long, it's amazing how often you feel like that episode was unnecessary.
True story. I agree with that. I'll go with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I get really tired of it. It's like, okay, this whole season is only 4 hours, but it felt like it was a 2-hour story that was stretched out,
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing a good job with that, and so absolutely, I don't know who the production team is behind the Penguin, but I think it's too bad that they are not the ones that are going to be running the DC universe as opposed to Gunn.
Oh, come on.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing Gunn here. I'm saying, and this is actually, I have it in my notes right here, is that what I would really love to see is that if we look at the comparison that we've been doing week by week of Penguin and Agatha,
Yeah.
that should be the MCU and the DCEU in a nutshell.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Is that Agatha is kind of light and fun and a little goofy, but DC is extremely serious, dark,
What's
gritty.
so funny is, but in real life, that was never normally the case.
No, but I think that from a production standpoint and the way the characters are, it makes more sense.
Yeah, Kevin Feige definitely put a stamp on that style of thing, because for the longest time it was always seen that DC was like gods made men, and then
And Marvel is guys with powers.
Right, guys with powers or suits or somehow sciencey, whatever. And so somehow, but in the films, it's sort of been reversed in that the Marvel's bigger than life, and now DC's like, well, we're going to own this ground level.
Right.
You know, now, and mind you, we might want to consider even doing, when Daredevil comes out, doing a comparative.
You froze for a minute. I heard I would love, and then you froze for a minute. So
sorry, I said I would love to see us compare Daredevil and Penguin when Daredevil comes out.
Yes,
Sort of see because they're both going to be speaking the same language, if you will, but it's going to be Marvel's version of that. So that'll be interesting to see how they pull that off, or what that looks like in the grand.
Well, you see, I'm just saying though, as a general flavor of the universes, I like, like Marvel established itself with the first Iron Man film, and honestly, if you look at when they try to take things too seriously, a la Eternals, or they try to take things too comedically, a la Love and Thunder, then they lose people. But if you keep that tone, where it's a serious-ish story with fun characters in it, like Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie is not a comedy. It's that Tony Stark is a funny guy.
Yes, I will go with that.
Yeah.
The ad-libbing, the stuff they do, apparently because the way they wrote it, the script wasn't completed when they did Iron Man.
Right.
So they had the gist of what they wanted to do. They knew the overall plot, so it wasn't like they were making a movie out of nothing. But they didn't have every single scene dialogued down to the every little jot and tittle. And so they spent the time, Robert Downey Jr. was just allowed to run and just go. And he basically on the fly wrote most of his stuff. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And that then fed the later on dialogue that people wrote for him.
Right.
Because that informed it, like, oh, you want Tony Stark to be like that. Well, that's mostly what RDJ came up with. Well, let's do that.
Right. It's kind of like, I think, the big problem that we see on, in Star Trek and Star Wars, right, is that Star Trek and Star Wars, the biggest problem Star Trek has had in recent years, I think, is trying to be more like Star Wars, because they shouldn't. Star Trek is and I know people overuse these terms, but I think it's true. Star Trek is more or less a science fiction show about the potential for human prosperity in the future.
Don't lose your thoughts. Bradley Biggs and Aravic, absolutely right. If you're watching the show, do me a favor, you guys, where you really want to be is youtube.com/nerdfighting. That's the actual NerdFights channel. Yes, we're currently simulcasting on Salty and Pepper. We're also Salty Plus, and we're also simulcasting on Mr. Know-It-All Reviews, as well as my Twitter account and I think it's it. Those 4 places. So, but yeah, youtube.com/@nerdfighting. That's where you
as time goes on, and if assuming we can grow the audience a little bit, eventually we're going to wean off of everything except for the NerdFights channel proper.
Yes.
Because we're also talking about bringing in other people and stuff like that. So we want NerdFights to be the central hub for all that.
Yep.
And then you can go to the individual channels, like if you want more content from me or you want more content from Mr. Know-It-All, then you can focus in on that stuff.
Right.
Like Mr. Know-It-All posted a really good review that he did with his wife of Agatha. And while it definitely
Which,
told.
by the way, you did a really I loved your review, and especially your very clickbaity title, that's what made me click on it. It was wonderful. So when we get to that, I can't wait to talk more about that. So when we get to Lower Decks. So hopefully, if you guys are sticking around for Lower Decks, don't go anywhere. Make sure you stick around.
So so please try to focus on that. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Well, we need to
friends about us.
Yes. But yeah, so when we look at Star Trek, Star Wars, so Star Trek has always been a show about the future of human knowledge and human prosperity. It's basically how far can science eventually take us, right?
And it was always, to me, it was always the wonder of scientific discovery and aliens and new. And now, mind you, I loved, even though a lot of people it's so funny because that they purposely went out of their way in Picard, which I know you have opinions on. I don't want to get into all that.
Yeah.
But in Picard, they're like, we haven't seen the Q in over 30 years or any sign of them or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Because they want to try to distance themselves from things that were fantastical, when I'm like, that was always the fundamental grounding. A floating head in space because we don't understand it.
Right. And now
sci-fi out in space, we don't know what's there.
Right.
We don't know what we may encounter, so let's have all the fantastic and crazy stuff that you could possibly imagine. You know what I mean?
But in Star Trek, what they do is they take the fantastic and then they analyze it and ground it and figure out how it works and how to counter it.
That's a really good
Star Wars, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Star Wars is not about future
science. Never once explain the hyperdrive.
No.
Nobody cares. It is a MacGuffin to get you from A to B.
It's the engine.
That's it.
Yeah, it's
motor of their car, and the money
it's like
looking car.
And as much as Star Trek nerds, including myself, like to pick apart things like the fact that they use the terms like hyperdrive, hyperspace, and light speed as if they all mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Which clearly they don't. Or that Han said that he could do the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, which made no sense whatsoever. And then they had to write that,
and they had to figure out what a parsec
to do it in Solo. Yeah, but the thing is that Star Wars is never worried about the hard science behind things.
Agreed.
They're about the spiritual journey of good and evil and clashing and what all that means. So then, why have both franchises been struggling? Well, if we look at recent years, especially I think starting with The Last Jedi,
come on.
Star Wars has been pushing more towards a grounded reality. And that,
or at the very least, grounded human experience.
Right. And
like it or hate it.
Right.
Like it or hate it. The point of the Acolyte was to show the imperfection of people and power corrupting and whatever else. Whether they achieve that or not is, again, not my point.
Right.
But that's where they're going. Andor's trying it. Rian Johnson wanted to try to do that. You're right. All these things, it just so happens they all kind of lump together. I'm not trying to be negative, but they're trying to, and that's, I think, part of why you're getting this pushback is because it's like, forget all the woke nonsense. This doesn't feel like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's not about wokeness, because if it was about wokeness, then why the heck aren't you bitching about Princess Leia?
Agreed.
And I know people say, well, that was a better movie. Yeah, but it was a better movie, not because or in spite of the wokeness. It was a better movie because Star Wars knew what it was at its core, which was a spiritual journey as opposed to a
oh my God.
What?
Arvik asks, is Salty Tracker wearing a dress uniform?
Yeah.
It does kind of look like the white.
It is.
You have the black yoke.
And it actually does have there's a Velcro flap.
Yeah, it looks like that's where you would open your uniform.
No, Arvik, this is
put right there.
Yeah, this is Arvik, this is a medical device holding my guts back together after they implanted my cybernetic implants.
It's a control device.
Yes. Yeah.
No, right on. And so when you get into, so it's funny as we start to talk more and more about this stuff, because we're I feel like the storytelling aspects that we're talking about, see, all the things we love about Penguin it's because we know Penguin to be this cartoony thing. And so it's novel to see it approached this way.
Right.
Now, I feel like when you go to something like Star Trek, I never once was like, man, you know what I wish I could see? A gritty, more grounded Star Trek. Never. Star Trek is our dream. It's a utopian type future, and Jonathan Frakes said about Picard that you had to sort of change up some of those outlooks, because things change, people change, and you need the drama or the tension for drama. And at the end of the day, having this passable, peace-loving, peace treaty thing, only like there has to be ebbs and flows to history. My question is, yeah, but we've been now to the far-flung 31st century or whatever. Why is there no? When do we get our happy utopia again?
Right.
Because it feels like now for hundreds of years we're not going to get that. Anyway, so
and that's the problem, is that then Star Trek is, like, while Star Wars is trying to be a little more like Star Trek is trying to be a little bit more like Star Wars,
right?
And that turns both of them into a mess.
Right, I agree with that.
You need to find your wheelhouse and stay in it, and this is where, like, and that's why when I look at Agatha and I look at the Penguin, that is the wheelhouse of Marvel and DC in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah,
and so I hope that both Gunn and Feige, who always watch this show, so we know they can hear me.
We're good friends of the show.
Yes, but I hope that they'll both learn from this, in that if they make their universes consistent, you don't have to make every story the same, but you make the tone consistent throughout the universe, like the MCU was for the first 3 phases.
I agree with that.
And honestly,
I think what they needed to have done realistically is, the way they started was great. This next phase should have been the reset phase. It should have been, let's individually tell stories in a movie and this and that, and slowly ramp back up. Right now, and when we get into the open spoilers, don't let me forget. I've heard a lot of new stuff coming out from some scoopers and some rumors. I don't report that stuff, but at the same time, I think it's germane to what we're talking about.
About Marvel.
But before we get way too far off course, what is your final thoughts on this week's Penguin, and what are you looking forward to in the episodes to come?
This week's Penguin did exactly what a serialized show needs to do, which is A, move the plot forward, and B, tell a self-contained story, and C, make me look forward to the next episode even more. It did all 3 of those things. It's a winner to me.
Fair enough. No, totally fair. All right, so next up, we're going to talk a little bit further about Agatha. The penultimate episode of Agatha I thought was amazing. It's the first 10 out of 10 Mrs. Know-It-All and I have given. The show came together in a way that was brilliant. It was all centered around the divinator, the one who can see the future and not, and sort of all the stuff we thought was crazy. They brought together, and they actually showed it to us in context. She's moving through her own timeline. She's Picard from All Good Things.
Right.
She's moving from her time, but it's all within her own personal timeline. So she can use information from the past or from the future in the past, and vice versa. This episode made Mrs. Know-It-All and I so incredibly happy. It was and sad, because obviously. And then in my review, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, and that's okay if you haven't. I did call out, yes, and I even said to everybody in NerdFights, yes, clearly she even calls it out. They did not, under any circumstance, try to hide the fact that she knew. Yeah. Lillian knew that he was going to die, and she didn't tell him anything. And I'm like...
And Stan, it is the penultimate because, yes, there are technically 2 episodes left, but they're both airing next week. It's not... Yep. We're not getting an episode next week and then an episode the week after. They wanted...
Tell them like you said in the beginning.
Huh?
Tell them like you said in the beginning. It's like having...
it's like having a 2-hour season.
It's like a very special 2 hour.
Yeah. Or in the case of Agatha, just over an hour. Because... So if they were airing on 2 different dates, you'd be right. But they're airing together, just like I consider the first 2 episodes of Lower Decks to be the season opener.
Agree, same. That's what I did. I don't do 2 videos. I do 1. I do the series season premiere, season 5.
Right, and so, but yeah, they're not going into November, and I think they wanted specifically to have Agatha wrap up.
Hypno Amber, new here, but watch the channel. Welcome aboard.
Hypno.
Yeah, the old guy is Salty Trigger. The middle-aged guy is Mr. Know-It-All, and we like to talk about stuff.
Or if you want to put it differently, the good-looking guy is Salty Trekker.
Right on. That too. That works also.
You can say
But
that.
yeah, man. No, no, it wasn't. It's good. They're both happening the same day, Stan. Rock on, brother.
Although my wife was recommending that I change my name to Salty Cyborg. Now that I am actually a cyborg. All right, so
Hypno Amber said this week's absolutely. This week's Agatha was amazing.
yeah.
That's what we're
So
talking about.
let's talk about this week's Agatha. So this one, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit.
Okay.
I would not, if I was rating the individual scores, I'd definitely not give it a 10 out of 10. Now, did I like the non-linear storytelling to kind of bring us the backstory of I can never remember her name, so I'll just say Glinda, the Good Witch. Yes, I thought that was very, very well done.
Right.
I think that the way that they kind of explained why she just has weird outbursts now makes perfect sense.
Yeah, totally.
That was absolutely great. However, and this is I know that you might get pissed at me a little bit about this, but I don't care. I just tell how I see it.
I just calls it like I sees it.
Yeah. I did think that they were just being a little over the top with the quote unquote wokeness with Billy. And
the queerant.
yeah, they actually
Know-it-all and I rolled our eyes so hard.
yeah. I did not like the queerant stuff. I did not. And by the way, this has nothing to do with not liking LGBT people, because if I were, for example, gay, I would find it offensive that the one gay character they put in drag.
See, the problem is I have a gay friend who literally was like, and by the way, yes, I have one gay friend.
You have one gay friend.
I am his black friend, so it works. But no, we talked about it briefly through text. He's like, so, Maleficent, ? And I went, I thought it was cool. What'd you think? He's like,
You're telling me
he sent me the meme of the guy going, yes. And I was like, that's hilarious.
You're telling me that they couldn't come up with any classic Disney male character to put him in?
It's a witch's road. It doesn't matter. It's supposed to be. Witches, like you said.
What about Merlin from The Sword and the Stone?
No, but it's not a witch. Merlin's not a witch.
A wizard is just a male witch. I mean,
no.
witch
Oh my
is
god!
a gender.
I'm doing all capitals. No! Exclamation point.
You see, I did not care for that. I thought that.
She's literally, I'm going to show you the text later. I'm not going to say it on the show.
Or if they put him in the Maleficent thing, here's the problem. I would be okay with the Maleficent thing if they didn't have the queer lines in there. I thought that was taking it just too far. They were just kind of rubbing your face in it just a little bit. And don't get me wrong, it didn't ruin the episode.
Even Agatha, though, who's blatantly LGBT, Agatha was like rolling her eyes at it. Like,
and so Thomas asks if we consider if an entire season drops on one day, is that the season opener? That's a little different.
Okay, first off, all the dudes speaking up about witches should not, because I don't know anything.
Yes,
about
because if you have a penis, you're not allowed to comment on it.
No, but I don't know. Male witches are called warlocks. The term warlock. First off, I wrote a story once a long time ago about it. The term warlock was invented for a very different purpose. Fictionally, has nothing to do with actual quote unquote.
I would say a male witch is a wizard, but let me see.
All right, so the next thing we're talking about, what do we do? Hold on. Hypno Amber said, I like the pink spikes they put on his collar. The costumes were so amazing. They really were amazing. Yeah. I liked Agatha's suit. That little, and then the Glinda hat. Yeah. Oh my God! And Jen,
Agatha looked amazing as the Wicked Witch of the West.
And Jen as the old lady with the apple, I thought was so wonderful. It was just chef's kiss. I thought they were doing good. So I really enjoyed it. Again, I liked. But you started to see the pieces of the puzzle come together from her perspective.
Yeah, right here, Bradley nails it. They did not call Harry Potter a witch.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Whatever. So, but having to do with the actual story and the episode, I actually thought that the as you start to see the pieces come together, one, this is good writing.
Yes.
The MCU began to use this kind of thought process. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to write like this, but the thought process, clearly someone said, okay, at some point we need to be able to, like, that's a good head writer. A good head writer says, these are all the episodes, this is where we're at. Now here, what are we doing here? Great. Now let's go back and pepper all these things in throughout so that it all makes sense when you get to this point. Because that's something you have to do sort of analog, like you have to go through and really figure out, okay, what can we season through so that when you get to this point, it's satisfying. That's what this episode was for me.
Right.
Very satisfying. The story, especially when we got to see, Mrs. Norrell had to remind me who the little girl's teacher across the table was from her.
Yeah.
Because we'd seen her sort of as a zombie when we first saw Death, which, again, that whole thing is an allusion to this episode.
Right.
The fact that throughout the show they could have this much forethought to what the story should be, this is good storytelling in terms of how to spin a yarn, if you will. Agatha kind of took a back seat in this episode, and that's okay. I felt like that.
That's fine. I think that this episode structurally was great. By the way, to answer Stanley, I did look it up. Hermione is, in fact, a witch. She is referred to as a witch. In case anybody cares. But I think that, look, it's
hang on, hit me real quick. I want to talk about this real fast. Lilia really felt dementia coded this episode. It tugged at my heart. Lovely take. Yeah, for us too, we deal with family who has to deal with some of those issues, and I seeing it from her perspective, especially those. For me, the dementia coding was the most adamant when she was very, very there and very lucid.
And imagine for someone who actually struggles with dementia, that what the world must feel like from their perspective, because it's something we can't really understand, because unfortunately most people with severe dementia can't sit down and write their thoughts out as to what it's like to experience that.
Right.
But to someone who, like, you walk into their room, you're their son, and they don't recognize you, but then they do, but then they don't, but then they do, and then they get the date messed up or whatever. Oh, that was loud, whatever the heck that was.
Everything okay? I was gonna say, it was loud. I heard it here.
Yeah, I think it was just thunder. It is raining right now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, it looks like there's a car in our driveway. It's probably a package being dropped off.
Got it.
Yeah.
So my thing, I feel like the when she was in those moments and able to tell Jen, I mean, can you imagine someone that self-aware who deals with being able to say, okay, look, in a few minutes, I'm not gonna be quite right. I need you to understand a couple things and lay it out. I mean, that moment was when I was like, wow. And then for her to be, but then like having to, as everything started, that's why I said satisfying, because as the pieces started getting filled in, she began to realize I'm not crazy. And that almost pulled me and Know It All to tears, because it's like, wow. Because again, we live very much in that place on a regular basis with some family, and it's like, man, it was so like it was very real. At least for me, it was.
And I think that was an interesting take on what dementia must feel like from the perspective of the person suffering with it. So I did really appreciate that. I really like non-linear storytelling can be very tricky to pull off.
Very.
And in this particular case, not only was it non-linear storytelling, but we've been watching bits and pieces of this episode for all the prior episodes without knowing it.
Right.
And so it shows that they didn't start filming episode 1 until the whole series was written. Right? Because clearly they knew where they wanted to go with her character. And so, that I think makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like, going back to Penguin for a second, it's kind of like they probably made the new drug mushroom-based when they figured out that they wanted Penguin to end up in the sewers.
Okay, that's fair. Like, as the plot tends to lend itself to how the story you want to tell.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's something similar here, is that they did a good job of mapping it all out so that they knew that they needed to have lines throughout the series that pointed to this moment.
Hypno Amber points out, and then Jen defending her and really connecting with her was also amazing. Like that
Yeah.
scene where Agatha's trying to talk to her, and she's like, "Yo, back off. She's had a day." You know what I mean? And like really, and she's like, "Okay, you said this. It's okay." Like really being there for her. Yeah, it all connected. What's funny is, I'll be honest, Amber, until you pointed it out, I hadn't really thought of it that way. But God, it fits. It fits so well.
Right.
And it's and then later, as you said, going on, then you look at like the Salem 7, which Stan was talking about. That plot thread came through and didn't. It was. I was kind of.
That's the other thing I was a little disappointed by.
I was let down because they were just a MacGuffin to. Going forward.
Okay,
but
hold on.
To end them like a boss, I was let's go. What was that?
Oh, you froze for a minute again. But
Sorry.
I don't know if it's my internet, your internet. You know, there is a storm blowing outside, so it could be on my side. I have no idea, but
yeah, no, the internet. Yeah, everybody froze. My internet looks like it dipped also briefly.
Okay.
I think we're back now.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that.
By the way, Mrs. Know-It-All wants you to know, Hypno Amber, she's all about all of your opinions and thought process on this whole thing. So way to go. Did they all die? I think, Thomas, they did. Talking about the Salem 7. I think they did.
That's where I was not happy about that. I think that to me it felt almost like what they did to Snoke in The Last Jedi.
It was very summary. Like it happened quick.
Yeah, unless they're not really dead, because they could come back next week. But
I love it. Oh my God, Stan, I think you misspelled that, but we'll move on. All right, so
wow.
Sorry, I'll put it up here.
Once my tupils are working,
my spelled autocorrect always says duck.
Yeah.
You know I don't mean duck. All right, so anyway. Amber says, "Yeah, we'll have to see how the Salem 7 shakes out because I agree with it. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's sort of a weird why did they? What was the point of it? What was the point of it all? But I thought the way she went out was a boss. I'm looking forward to the next 2 episodes.
I like the way she went out, basically buying him time, and being perfectly okay with sacrificing herself.
Yeah, she owned it.
She went out like a boss for sure. However, if that is the last we see of the Salem 7, I would say that's probably the weakest point of the writing for me so far.
I agree, because they had so much potential. They could have been something really cool, and I would have loved to have seen. Right. I would have loved to have seen her as some form of something, but that's not the story they're telling.
Right.
And that all the answers had to be about what was happening in the trials and all the things you're learning in that respect. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's rough sometimes. You see, when you see potential storytelling stuff, that's what people like us deal with when we're storytellers. So,
however, overall, I enjoyed the episode.
Same.
I just like I said, I think they leaned into the political stuff a little too much, and they offed the Salem 7 way too easily. But other than those 2 points, I thought that was a solid episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me and Mrs. Know-It-All, it was our first 10 out of 10 because we felt like the storytelling just came together very vibrantly in a way that nothing took me out of it that much. I was here for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Penguin and Agatha talked about. All right, everybody, it's finally time for those of you who are here to see Salty Trekker. And me and Mr. Know-It-All talk about so.
You mean Salty Cyborg?
All right, hopefully you're ready to discuss. Let's talk about some Lower Decks.
Yes, indeed.
Woo! Lower Decks. Lower Decks. Oh my God, I love me some Star Trek.
All right, so I got to say this right off the bat.
Yeah.
I was like, how could they possibly make this insane opening battle that they keep showing in the credits any bigger? And they brought in the Tholians and V'ger and Apollo, and I was just like, whoa!
Every season they've been escalating that thing. I'm like, right on, bro. Good. Well, and it's funny. I feel like that says a lot about where they're going, and which, of course, takes us to the very beginning of the episode,
right?
Where we deal with one of the biggest tropes in Star Trek ever that I love, which is the parallel universe. In my review, I said at one point TNG kind of made it their cottage industry to live in these kind of episodes.
But Merida even says that. It's just like, oh, this is so hack.
Yeah, totally. It's like, really? You're supposed to... Anyway, yeah, that's great.
But yeah, I
What
think
did you think of Mariner's
yeah,
alternate?
Ervik, if you just real quick, if you look at the opening credits, Apollo's hand grabs the Borg cube,
Yes,
and it's a
it's cool. It's big giant green hand. I was like, oh my god, it's awesome.
yeah. So,
Ugh,
but yeah, so um, I think that because
I love Planet X so much.
they when uh, they they showed in that one sneak peek thing that we're going to get Garrett Wang as multiple Harry.
No, which I'm like, what is this whole season going to be alternate universe episodes?
I think that's where they're going. I think that something is going because remember, what did Talin say at the beginning that these anomalies have been popping up a lot.
Like last season when they were talking about the stolen ships.
Right. So I think that this is going to be the underlying plot thread that leads us through the entire season is these anomalies and what's causing them.
What if they do? You don't think they're going to try to do something crazy like
Bring Wesley Crusher into it?
no, like oh, why not?
Because I hate
Dude,
Wesley Crusher.
bring Wesley Crusher in.
Only if they kill him.
I hate you so much. Stop it. No, I'm just excited to see what they're going to do with it because again, okay, on its face, real quick, not a very strong season open compared to past ones we've had. Felt like a lot of recycled stuff, but at the same time, I don't care. It's like why I watch Rick and Morty. I don't watch Rick and Morty for every single thing to be original. I watch it because it's Rick and Morty and they're fun and they're original. Same thing with Bob's Burgers.
Right.
When I watch this, I watch it for what it is. I don't watch it because, man, they blew my socks off every single time in every single season. I watch it because it's fun. It lives in this universe. And one of the fun things that I thought was amazing was we got to see Blue Orients.
Yes. And of course, if you saw my video,
I did. Not everybody has. So real quick, let's talk a little bit about that.
yeah. So they basically, and this is where like people say, oh, like I'll tell you, me and Professor Brainy Specs have fought over Lower Decks because a lot of people think Lower Decks doesn't belong in Star Trek canon because it's comedic and it doesn't take things seriously and they
I would argue that it takes things a little too seriously.
well, and here's the funny thing about all that is that if you go back over the canon of Trek,
Sure.
there's a lot of comedy in Star Trek.
There really is.
And so, or do you think that like episodes like Shore Leave or The Trouble with Tribbles from the original series, and you can pick out a couple of episodes from every, The Magnificent Ferengi, or the what's the one where Quark gets a sex change operation?
Oh my God, yeah.
And so every show, oh gosh, what's her Captain Proton?
Yeah, dude. Captain Proton's awesome.
Every series has their comedic episodes, right? And so Lower Decks is just a show that focuses on the funnier side of Trek. But if you look at the Cerritos, it's like, okay, the Cerritos is not the Federation flagship. It's the ship that has people that are average or below.
Bradley Briggs said, I want to see a timeline where the Borg are a different color than green and have a different philosophy, then you'll be assimilated. Maybe something like you'll be annihilated and maybe colored red. Bradley,
Or maybe they have feet for hands, or
either you froze, I froze. I think I'm freezing. I think I'm the one having internet issues at the moment.
yeah, I didn't see any frozen.
No, you're good. You're good. Hypno Amber says Lower Decks is one of my favorite Trek shows. I adore how it lovingly pokes fun at the weirdness of Trek. We all love how it pokes fun at the weirdness of Trek because there is.
And that's the thing. It's like if for me, a lot of the people that say that Lower Decks shouldn't be real Trek, it's like you take it too seriously. Don't get me wrong.
There's the guy who probably who has the triple timeline so that we can take everything crazy about Star Trek seriously.
I love Star Trek. I've loved Star Trek since I was literally a baby, and so I'm not saying that I don't take Trek seriously to a certain extent. In fact, probably too seriously in some way. But I also recognize that we're talking about a fictional universe whose primary purpose in existing is for entertainment. and so we forget that, and instead we add Thomas going back to the. I'm actually going to I'm going to rename the triple timeline theory to the Thomas Potts triple timeline theory.
Stanley says it's more real Trek than Strange New Worlds.
I'll fight you on that a little bit.
It.
I think Strange New Worlds is really good.
I'd like to revisit the vote to ban Stanley on the grounds of he is stupid. No, I'm kidding, Stan. You're totally not. But it's just because we love us some Strange New Worlds. Those are fighting words, okay? Yeah. We have a picture of us with our Lord and Savior Anson Mount. So don't go there.
It's actually right.
Behind you somewhere.
You just barely see it right here. That's the picture of us with Anson Mount.
I loved Second Contact lists. Contactors. Second Contactors was awesome. It was such a cool concept because you have to think about it. Someone has to do the job of going back and revisiting.
Right.
And I thought that was such a smart. I'm sorry. It's poking at an old episode, but I love an old Lower Decks episode, but I did love it.
Yeah, and heck, I like when they went back to the planet where Landru was, and they turned.
I love that so much.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
like that. We don't think about.
And you think, that's just silly. Except that people do stupid things all the time.
All the time, bro.
And so I like that Lower Decks is basically, it's like, hey, you've seen the best, now see the rest.
Totally. That's hilarious.
It's the opposite of the old idiom. And so which I love. I think that, we're used to seeing Captain Kirk, Captain Picard, Cisco, all these guys that represent the absolute pinnacle of Federation achievement. But what about the average person?
Agreed. Sorry, I got those out of order. Creep ass Salty, are you fighting with or without the girdle? Stanley came in backwards and right on the heels of it and said, Creep, you should see him in his Spanx. And I felt like that was worth bringing up.
Yes, because
we love you.
Anyway,
ever.
So I think Lower Decks, but here's the thing about it is that, so for people to think that they don't take Star Trek canon seriously or anything like that, I'm sorry, Mike McMahon takes Star Trek canon more seriously than anybody else that's currently in Star Trek production.
Yeah, he absolutely.
And he actually, and that's what my video is about, is that this opening two-parter fixes a plot hole that has been in Star Trek canon for 50 years.
Expand on that, please, for everybody playing at home.
Right. So everybody knows about the Orions, right? The Orions are the guys are huge and green. Women are extremely hypersexual and green. And as it turns out, Orion women, which I don't know if you've seen it from Enterprise or not, because I don't remember which season it's from.
No, I've seen scenes. I've seen a lot of scenes from all of the seasons.
Right. But we find out Orion women release basically a pheromone that basically drives men crazy and annoys women.
It's hilarious. Yeah. I'm like, wait, so that's not how it is in real life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of just what women actually do. But the
pheromones that drive men crazy, but also make women hate you.
Yeah,
women be catty.
But the Orions, particularly the Orion women, were first introduced in the original pilot, The Cage. And in the original series, they basically had 3 technical appearances.
That's right.
You had The Cage, you had Whom Gods Destroy, where... yeah, because...
but I don't know if you count The Cage, because The Cage is technically, that's not a real Orion, technically.
Well, she's an illusion of an Orion, but I'm just saying that's the first time we see what an Orion.
That's fair.
Right. And that's actually where they established that Orion women are irresistible. Was The Cage. That is.
You don't love a green chick. Let's go.
But I think when they're sitting in Pike's bar, they say, or actually no, it was in the Menagerie, I think. So it's even more official canon than
you have to pronounce it the Menagerie. The Menagerie.
I thought I said the Menagerie, the Menagerie, whatever.
Different accent, the Menagerie.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, the fancy word that means the same thing as the cage. But in that, you had Commodore Mendez say that, it's said that no human male can resist them. And so that's actually established very early on.
Right.
And then, of course, in Whom Gods Destroy, Garth has his girlfriend that's an Orion, played by Batgirl.
Yeah, I love her.
And then, of course, we have the Orion that was altered to look like an Andorian in Journey to Babel.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so those are our Orions from the original series. So I think here's what happened, because
was that Orion that was dressed up as an Andorian? Was it a blue Orion?
I think it was.
Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead.
So at least canonically looking back at it, that's what it was. And now you're frozen, so we'll wait. It's so funny because you have this look of ecstasy on your face right now as you're frozen. You're like, but yeah. So I don't know what it looks like on the stream. Hopefully it's not broken. Let's go. So somebody says you're farting. That's not good if you're farting. If that's what you look like when you fart, then there's a problem. Uh-oh, and it looks like he dropped off. So we'll give it a minute here. Let's see. Wait for Mr. Know-It-All to manage to come back. Yeah, I was just checking the actual live stream on YouTube, and it does look like, it was him that froze up. So, froze us on. Yeah, Bradley, it looks like. I'm assuming he's had some kind of internet problem. So we'll give him a minute to hopefully reconnect and make sure that he knows that he disconnected. Bear with me, I'm just calling him really quick.
Yeah, my internet just died.
Okay, so any chance of getting it back online?
I'm trying to right now. I'm trying to literally right now as we speak.
Okay.
I don't know. It looks like our Spectrum app just told us that our internet has just gone down in our area.
Okay.
So we're trying to be like, what the hell, man?
All right.
How long? And there's no sign of why. Like, it just died.
Right. Well, considering you froze a half a dozen times, Arabic says you must.
You froze a half a dozen times. Shut up.
No, you froze.
You froze.
Anyway, so Arabic thinks the problem is that you have T-Mobile.
Let's go to Unreal Studio. I didn't back up.
All right, I'll wait for you. All right, so he says he's back up and running. You probably heard him. So we should have him joining back in.
All right, I'm back.
All right. And yes, Bradley, I see you are on the Salty Plus where...
My internet just crashed. Like, it just died.
No. So, Bradley, go to the NerdFights channel and see if there probably be more people there.
There'd probably be more people there.
Yeah. Because we actually have... well, now I can't see it, but we have 34 people watching right now. So
yeah, well, if
you're sitting in a room by yourself, you're sitting in the wrong room.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the wrong room. I am frozen. I'm good. I'm not frozen anymore. I'm back to normal now.
So what was I saying right before? Oh, yeah. Okay. So as far as... So canonically, and I think this is worth doing a theory video on. I think, but I think canonically, yes, that was a blue Orion that stabbed Kirk in Journey to Babel. Because it just makes more sense. Less surgery required. All you got to do is stick the antenna on him, basically, give him a wig.
The antenna that snaps at the end of the guy snaps it off. Because that's made of cartilage in real life. It's not.
Right.
Okay.
But in reality, okay, so now coming into the real world for a second, I think that what happened was the writers of the animated series, because let's be real, the animated series did not quite have the quality control that the original series had.
Because they were like, we can do anything.
Right.
So they did. because there was no quote unquote visual effects budget to worry about.
Right.
So they tried to do everything, and you're like, what?
So here's what I think. First of all, why they started calling. I think that the word Orion instead of Orion was.
There you go.
And Arabic. Everybody watch my video. Everybody mispronounces it.
Arabic's asking the question, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I just said watch my video, because I show a clip of every time somebody says Orion from that episode, and it's not just Kirk. But I think what probably happened, because this does, William Shatner was the hardest person to get the recording done with the animated series. This is all established fact.
Yes.
And there were times when he literally had to phone it in because he'd be on the road, and he would basically do the recording over the phone.
Did they at least try to make it sound like he was talking through the radio?
I have no idea, because I don't know exactly what scenes that was done with.
That's awesome.
But what does happen now? William Shatner is also notorious for mispronouncing things
all the time.
Yes,
all the time.
So I think what happened was they recorded William Shatner's stuff for this episode, and he said Orion over and over and over, and so they were like, "Screw it, just say Orion."
It's the animated series. No one's ever going to watch this.
Right. Nobody's going to ever pick this apart. It's not like Star Trek.
It's not like 30 years down the road, people are going to be.
So I think that's where the mispronunciation of Orion came from. Was that William Shatner mispronounced it? They couldn't get him back to re-record, and so they just left it as Orion and told everybody else to just say Orion to match.
Hey Thomas, if you want to see my full Agatha review, you're more than welcome to go to my channel and watch it.
Yeah.
It's fully there. The whole thing.
It's a good review. He does a good solid review.
Stanley says, you say sabotage. I say sabotage.
Actually, my favorite Shatnerism, though, is got to be from More Tribbles, More Troubles.
Yes!
Quinto Triticale. And it's like, what?
You're like, you were in the original episode, man.
Yeah.
Come on, dog.
So,
I love it.
But, so I think that's where the mispronunciation came from. As far as making them blue, I think it was just because whoever was doing the animation was like, well, what's an Orion? And they looked up real quick, oh, the Orions were in this journey to Babel, and they see the scene of Kirk fighting the guy, and then they see that his antenna broke off, so the antennas were fake. So they're just blue guys without antenna.
That's so funny.
So I think that's probably how it ended up becoming blue guys called Orions.
But did you also notice? But then they canonized several things. One, they canonized the outfit, which is exactly from TAS.
Yes.
But my point is, but then in the ladies' outfits, they had the V set up. They had that same symbol that's like on the guys' outfits. Mm-hmm. So I was like, so they kind of borrowed those design elements. Anyway, I love the fact that you're right. McMahon and them they were like, we're going to make this thing work. We're going to make it work across.
They did what Star Trek fans do. They figured out a way to make it all kind of fit together. And so in this case, the Orions are just a different race. It would
47 Yorktown wins. 47. Everyone else can go home now.
Yes,
Orion is the Canadian pronunciation.
Well, that's why William Shatner has such a tough time.
That's awesome. I love it so much.
William Shatner is a Canadian Jew, so it's like. He gets a pass on.
I love him so. He's gonna mispronounce everything.
Right.
So I love him so much.
The Orions have taken the Quinto Triticale and sabotaged the operation.
Yes. All the yeses.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But
overall, how are you? Are you impressed at all? What are you looking for in this final season? Because we already talked about the fact that there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in terms of multi-universe stuff.
Right.
Or
I want to see more stuff. Like I'm so looking forward to hearing why Kim is still an ensign.
What if the ensign is just him from another universe, or you think it's him from our proper universe?
We don't know which universe is which, so we don't know if. Kim in the so-called.
Everyone acts like he stays an ensign forever. We have seen a future where he is a captain or a captain's rank.
Right, but that's an alternate future. We don't know.
Where does it live in your timeline?
Well, it's an alternate reality. I don't have every timeline in there. Jeez.
It's trash. He's like, throw it, get rid of it. Throw
You-
the whole thing down.
Somebody wants to send me enough money for the supplies, I will turn this entire wall into a complete Star Trek timeline, including every alternate universe. However, that will take a long time and a lot of money. So give me a lot of money, I'll take the time.
Hold on. Bradley Big says R. Kim isn't even R. Kim, as he was lost a long time ago. They lost him a long time.
Well, the original Kim did die.
What? I watched Voyager. When did this happen?
Oh gosh, I can't remember what the name of the episode was now. But Voyager was duplicated, and the original Kim died, and then they brought the Kim over from the alternate reality, who has been Kim ever since then.
Hold on.
So yes,
I got to put this up. This is the third time I've seen, or second time I've seen this from Thomas Potts today.
Yes.
By the way, in support of Thomas, Mrs. Know-It-All says, "Look, Salty, pick a universe. Tell us where it goes, and we'll go with it."
Yeah. So Kim, the original Kim, the prime Kim, if you will, died.
The prime Kim. Wow. So what Kim did we get? And when did this happen? I gotta watch that. I gotta rewatch Voyager. I haven't watched it a long time because the first two seasons are a slog. Once they introduce Seven and they start kind of moving in that general direction, then they give it like story and plot, and there's other big things. But before that, it's like, golly, for me, it feels like it's a slog. And they brought over alternate Naomi Wildman.
Yes, Naomi Rodman also died from the original.
Wow. I'm so shocked, bro.
Let's see.
That's so crazy. Like, seriously.
Yeah, and so I'm looking for it. Man, sorry, my eyes are just irritated for some reason.
That's okay. They're irritating me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So I think it looks like it's the episode Deadlock. It's the 21st episode of season 2. It says.
That's why. I'll watch it.
Yeah. Voyager enters a plasma cloud to avoid a Vidian vessel, and it damages the ship. Kim is sucked into space. Yeah, that's
Angry emoji. No. Kim was the real one. Voyager was the duplicate.
Yep, so Kim dies, he gets sucked into space. Or, if Data was here, say,
I was going to say.
it's
I
blown
love that blooper. That's one of my favorite bloopers of all time. From the original Encounter, or not Encounter Farpoint, the Naked Time. Or was it Naked Now? Which one was the TOS episode?
Oh, it wasn't a blooper. That was in the episode.
No, but he originally said it wrong in the blooper. It's in the blooper. He says it's sucked out. He meant to say it was or blown out or whatever. He said the wrong thing.
But that's in the dialogue.
No, I know, but he says the wrong version of it.
Oh, so there's a blooper where they both say the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And he laughs because he meant to say sucked out, not the other one. And he's
Right.
like,
I think Riker says they got sucked out into space, and then Data says, "No, sir, that's blown out," and which is really stupid. By the way, I'm just on a little mini tangent here for a second.
It's technically true though.
No, it's not.
How?
Sucked out and blown out literally mean the same thing.
No, they don't. Sucked out means that. Hold on, because clearly this is.
No, I did look at from a physics standpoint. Here's what happens.
Okay, hold on.
Sucked out.
Okay, go ahead.
Sucked out means that a low pressure zone pulls everything out from a high pressure zone. Blown out means things in a high pressure zone are pushed out into a low pressure zone. They mean literally the same thing. It's just a matter of from what perspective are you describing it.
Really?
Yes.
Really? No, because if something because to me, if something's getting sucked out, that means a force outside is pulling you in that direction. If something is being blown out, then the force inside is.
There was no force, though. It was just the atmosphere was equal.
That's pressure. Pressure is a force.
So is negative pressure a force?
I don't even know what negative pressure is. What are you talking about?
Zero pressure.
What's zero? Yeah, that's what happens when you go inside.
Either way, it's an accurate. That's the point. And in fact,
Creep, don't give in. Creep, you hold the line. This is not potato patata.
It is.
It's not. Hold on. Thomas Potts hot on his heels. No, it's not. You stop it.
Yeah, we need to replace potato with Orion.
I'm gonna get real liberal with the banning button in a minute. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Glass half full argument. Whatever. Hey.
Yeah, it really is. It's the same thing. It's like glass half full versus glass half empty. It's the exact same thing. It's just a description of a glass with 50% occupancy. And so when you're talking about blown out versus sucked out, when you're and specifically in the context of something going from a 1 atmospheric pressure to a 0 atmospheric pressure, which is what happened here, then there is no difference.
Fine. I'll concede that one.
All right. Yeah, because you're no.
No, because I'm not in the mood to get into further argument with you about it. Everyone's like, no, get an argument. Stanley says 50% unoccupied. That means there's still room in the bathroom for one other person, or at least half of another person.
Wow, you went to the weird place with that.
Because when I think of unoccupied or occupied, I think of like the vacancy sign.
How about an apartment or a hotel room?
Because I'm talking about on the door, not the whatever.
50% occupied in a bathroom? What kind of bathroom do you have? Do you have 2 toilets sitting next to each other?
It's called a bidet. All right. So ultimately, though, what do you want to see from the rest of the season?
Okay, so this season, I do want to see more stuff where they play with alternate realities.
Sure, yeah, have fun with it. I get you.
Like I said, the Kim thing, I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if they have any other big cameos lined up. I hope they do. And in fact, I would like to see actors from every Star Trek series. In fact, I think that they do need to do something with the Strange New Worlds cast since they had, they went to.
They already did it. They did. You got the crossover, but you mean like they're in.
Yeah, so that somehow Pike and his crew end up in the 25th century or 24th. I always get confused as to when exactly Lower Decks is, but
I would just love for Strange New Worlds to make a reference to it. Like that time we had those crazies from the future coming here, whatever. I mean, something. Because I feel like sometimes when you see stuff happens one time and then you never hear it from it again, you start to go, well, is it real? Was it not canonical?
But at least in Lower Decks, they did reference it.
Yes.
And so.
They did.
Yeah.
That Pike situation we're not supposed to talk about?
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
oh my God, Hypno Amber coming in with the clutch. You're gonna love this one because I don't agree because I'm not a big fan of that. But yes, Scott Bakula cameo.
I would love to see Scott Bakula show up. I'd love to see Okay, so we know we got Voyager covered because we know Garrett Wang is coming.
Yes.
We'd like to see someone from Enterprise. Some Deep Space Nine. We got to get, we've already.
Give us something, right? Give us more Deep Space Nine.
We need a Deep Space Nine. And come on, you bring in like Quark or something like that to deal with it. Because remember, in a previous episode, we had a reference to Grand Nagus Rom.
We did.
And so, how about an episode where Quark is really pissed off because his brother is the Grand Nagus or something? And
isn't he always pissed off because his brother's the Grand Nagus? I love the fact they got all the voice actors because what are they doing? They're going to Star Trek conventions and singing the blues or singing old music.
Yeah. By the way, Creep, to answer your question, if you're next to a black hole, you are not getting sucked in or blown in. You are being pulled in.
Yes. Actually, you're losing. Things are getting sucked in.
Right. No, it's being pulled. It's not being sucked.
So what's the difference?
Sucked actually specifically is about low pressure, high pressure. Same with blown. With a black hole, it's not low pressure, high pressure. It's gravitational force pulling you in.
Ah, good. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. No, that makes sense. I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so, as opposed to being pushed in, like a rocket could push you into something, but gravity pulls you to something.
Right. Yeah, because even if you're getting sucked out into let's say you're getting sucked out or whatever, you're being pulled there to them. But once you're out there, you're there.
Right.
Versus the pull happens, and then it's still you. When you arrive on that crash landed place, you're still getting up, and you're still being exerted on the pressure.
Right.
That's why you stand still. That's why you're not.
Gravity is constantly pulling us towards the
Correct.
center of Earth.
Oh, pulling you in and pulling you apart. Way to go, Hypno-Amber.
So, anyway, so
Thomas asked a very logical question. Thomas, on behalf of me, I checked at the last meeting. Yes, black hole is still the acceptable answer.
Well, except that there's a growing movement in the scientific community to refer to it as an African American hole.
I think that already does exist. It's at Didi's house. Moving on.
So. Oh, that'd be, that would be so funny. Like, you remember in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Decker says that Voyager 6 was pulled into what used to be called a black hole, right?
Yes.
But now it's an African American hole.
I hate you so much, dude. That made Grandpa Know-It-All laugh. My father-in-law. African American hole made him laugh. It's great. Yeah. On that note, LeVar Burton got the Humanities Award.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. No, anytime I see Star Trek people out in the wild, I call it out in real life. I find it amazing. Does he do conventions anymore?
LeVar Burton, I saw him at a convention, but it was like 10 years ago, so I don't know.
So Creation sent me an email because now that I've been to their Nash, but Star Trek Nash, they're sending me them for everywhere. I guess Star Trek Dallas is coming up, and they showed the list of people. It's kind of all the same people. So the regional shows are not that, like, I feel like the regional shows are what they are, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like, go ahead.
Yeah, well, when I was talking to Ethan Peck about it.
Were you really?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because we were actually just chatting about this. Me and Ethan Peck, we go way back. We talked one time.
I thought it's hilarious because you totally did. He talked to you like you and him are buddies.
Yeah.
I love that.
But Ethan and I, when we were talking, it was...
Now, when Ethan and I are talking...
Well, sorry.
Buddy.
Mr. Peck and I... You can believe Mr. Pecker. My name is Peck.
That's right.
But anyway, but when I was talking to Ethan about this, he said that, as far as conventions are concerned, the studio says... Hey, if you want to do conventions, that's fine, but you're on your own. It's your personal time, your personal schedule. Just don't let it get in the way of, your contractual work with us. And, there's certain, anything that's covered by our NDAs, don't talk about. So I
always thought on some level the conventions were part of the...
They are in no way, shape, or form considered official Paramount business.
Wow.
But
I think anybody who does Star Trek would have to realize you'd be an idiot not to. Then again, there's Bakula who has said, I'm an actor first. I will absolutely do conventions. My price tag is $1 million.
Yeah.
And he's like, you give me $1 million, I'll show up, I'll do all the things. He's like, but that's what I'm not. My time is too valuable. And I kind of respect that. I dig that.
Right.
But at the same time, he's sitting, so that makes me understand more what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're kind of being a dick, but at the same time...
Right.
Get that, okay, the studio is not compelling anybody to show up at these cons.
Right.
The only exception is occasionally the studio will compel people to show up at, like, San Diego Comic-Con.
Right. Comic-Con, the big ones, the big guys that where they're like, okay, we have a presence. You got
right, because we are making an official announcement, or, we're introducing the cast or whatever,
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, when they had the big reveal that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be Dr. Doom, it was not optional for Robert Downey Jr. to show up.
Okay, good. See, Hypno-Amber says, and I appreciate this because I thought that was the case. They used to be official, but then Paramount cut them back. I think back when it was TNG, they were because they had seasons and they had the time between the seasons, and they would do like all the conventions were in the 3 to 4 week period between season 1 and 2. So basically the summer, and that was all you got. And then and they wanted you, and you would go.
Well,
And it
and
wasn't unless you
you
wanted to
gotta
go
remember
small.
also though, Hypno Amber, is that there were official conventions and then there were unofficial conventions. So because like it usually the actual conventions that were called like the Las Vegas Star Trek convention, something like
Right.
that, that would usually be something official. However, like I used to go with my cousin to an annual event in Sonoma County called Octocon, and Octocon was, and this was back in the '70s and stuff. But why it was called Octocon, I have no idea.
Because it
But
sounds good.
yeah, I guess so. But Octocon was not an official Star Trek convention or an official. It was just a general sci-fi convention, and they tried to get whoever they could. Uh, kind of like most conventions are today.
True story.
So, but nowadays, really the only conventions that matter is there's D23
Yeah.
and there's San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's basically if the actors want to make some extra cash. You know.
Oh, and they do, by the way. When I worked, this was going on a decade ago.
Mhm.
I worked briefly as marketing for a company called Vulcan that did the ones in the southeast region. So it was like Florida, Georgia, Atlanta, or not Georgia, Alabama rather, and some of those the corner here. And it was Frakes had a price tag of 75,000, and Brent Spiner was 50, and Patrick Stewart was 80. Gates was funny enough 35. I know that was odd, and then. The one lady who plays Kalar, she's a character actor. She plays a lot of different characters. She played a Vulcan, a Romulan, a Klingon,
Yeah,
a bit. She was I want to say she was like 15,000,
hmm
and you had to get them, and they came with a rider. You had here's the room, here's room, food, boy, the whole bit. Some of them were like, I don't want to stay at the convention. I want someplace else off site. So it's a whole thing.
And Creeps, let's talk about how wrong you were about Wonder Woman.
About what? What about her? Last House. She's an Amazon versus a god or whatever else.
Oh yeah, well it's Mr. Know-It-All. You know, he calls himself Mr. Know-It-All as just a way to compensate for the fact that he's actually kind of an idiot. So
Shh. Yeah. First off, I think we all know about how far away that answer is. Here's the thing: this idiot did all this. Isn't it nice and pretty? I could put us back in the 2-bit Apple Paint backgrounds we used to have.
broken clock is right twice a day.
No, Broken Clock is right twice a week. Wednesdays were all in off season, and Saturdays during season. That's when he's right. Right on, man. Oh man, I tell you what though, there's a lot of good stuff happening out there in the world today. Like this shows wise, there's a lot of good things happening right now. I'm working. I know we're working on putting together a better schedule, sort of tighten up some things. We're going to be shifting back to Wednesdays soon. I don't know exactly when, but we'll announce that when it happens. Because Agatha will be done, and there's really nothing else dropping on Wednesdays for a good stretch. So we'll probably switch back to there soon, debating whether or not what to do with the show in general. But we're keeping all that stuff in perspective. If you have thoughts, drop them. We'd love to hear more about it. Any ways to make the shows better or to give you guys more entertaining stuff, I'm down for.
8-bit guy is already taken. 2-bit guy should be fun.
That sounds about right. That's salty.
And Thomas has sent me a pic of one of his favorite
autographs.
Let me take a look here.
Nice.
Messages, Thomas.
No!
What?
Aravik, you still need to do Rings of Power, sir. No!
Yeah,
You can't make me!
Ooh.
It's so terrible.
There, if you want to show that, it's a nice picture, actually.
Oh, that is a nice picture. Check him out.
Unfortunately, that's a guy who you can't get his autograph anymore. And you haven't
Not
been able to
anymore,
for
man.
some
Not
time.
anymore. Here it is.
Yep.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
He was a good one.
Yeah. You know, I tell you, it's the worst day for me is going to be when William Shatner goes.
It's gonna be bad. That's for real.
And yeah, I gotta say that's gonna be really really hard. And the thing is, the guy's in his 90s. It's like
But he's in his 90s and like still talking crap to people online that give him
which
crap.
is great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if he died tomorrow, I can't say as I would be shocked, right?
It's fair. It's fair. No. Yeah, I'm with you.
And Hypno Amber with a $5
Oh,
super.
thank you so much, Hypno Amber. You're the best.
Oh yeah, he's probably going to you because I don't have a monetized channel on this.
Right, because Hypno Amber loves it. Let's go. I'm all about it. No, you're good. I appreciate you so much. Seriously, we're having a good time in these things. And you guys, I love everyone else for sure. But
logistically, we're still trying to figure some things out. But I think that we got a good basic setup here.
I think so too.
You know.
Yeah, and plus, especially now that I'm playing with the dynamic scenes a little more, learning how to play with some stuff to make it smoother. The reason that even matters is because I'm just trying to find ways to make us more efficient, so we can be able to shuck and jive a little better.
Right. The only problem is you work like what 17 jobs.
I do a lot. Yes.
So it's like if I had all your skills, then I would be able to do more. But unfortunately, I don't.
Whatever, you have plenty of skills.
Yeah, well, now that I'm a cyborg, we'll see.
No, I have no idea why I cried. Like that was the weirdest thing. Like we have Spectrum, which is our internet provider, and we have an app, and it said it's like sorry, internet's going down in your area, and I'm like, what? How did that happen?
Well, probably because you have Spectrum.
Probably.
If you had good internet.
That's all they have here. I'm a big Xfinity fan, and I pay for top of the line Xfinity when it's available.
Do you not have like AT&T fiber or anything in your area?
So we have Spectrum, and they're using they're allegedly in Spectrum fiber. I don't know. See, but I know that when we do move again, it's funny. We're one of the few people that when we move, one of the questions we ask is not about schools or neighborhoods or whatever. It's how's your internet?
Right.
What's the internet like in your area? Because if it's garbage, I'm rethinking. I don't care how nice the house is. Seriously.
Yeah, I would think that too. Like if I was going to actually, if for some reason we sold this house and we're going to move, it's like wherever we go, there needs to be solid fiber available.
Gotta have it.
And if it's not, then it's like, sorry, that's a non-start.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's a non-start. Like, nope, not doing it.
So,
all right.
Anyway, so the mistress of the, oh gosh, I always forget her title. Mistress.
Oh yeah, mistress of the Winter Winds. I got nothing.
Yeah. So she is now back with the crew.
Yay!
I did think it was kind of interesting, this alternate universe where, it's only 0.378% difference. And then I love the one where they screwed it up. And it's like, oh, what is math 0.378 different in your universe?
Oh my God!
They had some great little zingers in there.
I loved Captain Mariner. I thought she was cool. She had a riding crop. What captains have riding crop other than the guy with the Excelsior?
Well,
and we thought he was a tool.
Well, she was kind of a tool.
She really was. I thought it was hilarious that she wanted to steal our Mariner's life because she's like, I gotta go back to being like that, and I'm like,
yeah,
hilarious.
Creep. That's horrible.
There you go. Right on. So, all right. Well, what else? What else you got going
on? And we don't download porn. We upload it. Because, we're the stars.
We are not the stars of porn.
Not together. No. Not in the same.
No. Don't. Do you not know your audience, bro?
Yeah, I know. They're like immediately. I'm
Seriously, Thomas and them, they know they're just going to go nuts with it.
Yeah, I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Absolutely. I love Talen. She's become part. That baby know-it-all says she absolutely loves what she calls.
Yeah, Talen has grown into a good part of the show.
She calls her Spock girl. Baby know-it-all loves Spock
girl.
That's what she calls her, and she loves that character. And so she asked me, she says, "Is Spock girl still in it?" I said, "Yes, she is. In fact, you will love her in this." And so we have to actually, baby know-it-all.
There it is for you.
Yeah, totally.
So.
To keep us on brand with
Yeah.
everything else going on. That's hilarious.
And yes, the NerdFights OnlyFans page is coming soon.
Nah. Okay.
You know, it's funny. We did.
All right, fine. Hold on. No, he's not.
Don't need to see that. When when I was in the Star Trek fan club, we actually published a Vulcan sex book.
Why do I bother? Why do I bother trying to keep us the show that can stay monetized at all?
Here's how awesome.
Okay, look here. Advertisers, you know what you're getting into. Why? Just...
So, like, page 1 would have, like, of course, classic Vulcan salute. Page 2 would have, like...
Is this like a weird version of, like, the Kama Sutra, but for Vulcan hands?
Yeah, it was just pictures of hands in various positions.
I don't know what to do with you, sir. All right. Let's just move. Let's see where this...
So, yeah,
I'm done. The show's gone off the rails. I don't know what to do, man.
So, Talin, I think...
New show next week. I don't know.
She's a great addition to the show. At first I was skeptical about bringing her in, but now she's kind of grown on me. I like her. So now did you hear? So you said to remind you that you heard some rumor stuff
about
Marvel.
Lower Decks or Marvel or who?
You said there was some Marvel rumor stuff you wanted me to remind you to talk about.
Right. Okay. Quick little. So several things dropped recently that happened. One was the fact that they have apparently Marvel has halted everything. I follow a scooper, a pretty famous one online named Daniel RPK. I'm part of his Discord, and one of the things we talked, he did a private conversation. He said we're allowed to share it. I'm not violating any rules of the Discord. Right. And one of the things he talked about was he was given a memo. He's not allowed to show.
But he claiming that like he works for Marvel or
no? He has several sources. One of them is deep in with Disney on the Marvel side. And and that's where his primary. He doesn't have a source over at Star Wars. He has more of a source at the Marvel side of stuff there, gotcha. Over at Disney. And so he said that they've halted everything. The focus, the entire studio is driving to Secret Wars. Things that were planned to come out are either going to quietly be paused and then come out after. But they essentially, there's 2 movies coming out that are going to be coming out that are supposed to lay the groundwork: a Spider-Man 4 and one other one, which I can't remember right the second offhand. But it's all leading toward. So the goal is to get to Secret Wars. Once they get to Secret Wars, that's going to be because Secret Wars is their big reset, which makes sense.
Right, because it's a multiversal
event. It's a cataclysmic whatever. Yeah. So that's where you recast your Iron Man.
It makes sense if it might be Fantastic Four is the other one.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's where you recast your Iron Man, you recast your other stuff. Yes, Fantastic Four too. But like there were a lot of other things that were going to come out. Like they were talking about a lot of stuff that was in development, but that's the real reason Blade was canceled. Not canceled, but postponed. It's been moved off the current schedule. So it will show up down the road. Mahershala Ali has also came out in support saying, no, we're working on it. Things are happening. He understands. He's totally fine with delaying stuff, and I agree with it. So there's a whole lot happening in the backseat there to make the whole thing work toward where it's where the end result is supposed to be. And I'm looking. My thing is, if Kevin Feige wanted to stop the train and said we're going to do this to fix it, he has earned my trust. Even if the MCU has failed in some areas. If he's able to sit here and go, no, we're pausing for this reason, I'm like, okay, I'm with you, I'm on board. So
I would tend to agree. I think that Feige, when Feige has focus, we saw what they can do. With the first 3 phases of the MCU was one of the most incredible cinematic achievements in the history of cinema.
Hands down.
And so, say what you want if go woke, go broke or whatever. Look, they lost focus. That's what happened. They didn't have a clear path after Infinity War, and they just started thinking, well, no matter what we do, it's going to make money, so let's just crank out every.
So Stanley, the actual question Stanley just asked, well, didn't things start falling apart when Kevin was left alone? No, false. When Bob Chapek took over as CEO, Bob Chapek instituted a new division of Disney that was their distribution division. He gave that division authority to make policy, make demands, and issue things that they wanted things to be out. He took Kevin Feige's power from him. And so now when Iger is back, Iger has given that authority back. That's why certain things were halted, stopped. That's why we and reshaped it to be, and the end result. We're getting Agatha the way we're getting it because of this. Because Agatha was mostly done. They had to go in and do reshoots to fix it. And Feige was like, no, we're making everything right. I want everything, now that I have my power back, we're fixing it. So hopefully now, but it's a big ship that was already going. You invest millions, you're still going to put things out. So they had no choice.
Yeah, cruise ships don't turn on a dime.
So no, not at all.
You gotta course correct. And I think that's why, like, some movies, like Deadpool and Wolverine, you notice that there was a lot of talk about Ryan Reynolds fighting the studio. And then that talk kind of disappeared after Iger took over again.
Right.
And I think that's because Iger, the problem I think that they ran into at Disney which is kind of ironic for a big corporation like
sure,
that, they got greedy. Is that they were like, okay, let's crank stuff out, because if one movie makes $1 billion, then 10 movies make $10 billion.
No, exactly. No, fair enough.
Which sounds like it makes sense until you realize you can't put out 10 quality movies in the same amount of time you used to take to make one.
Agreed.
And so I think they really got into this quantity over quality thing. And it affected both the MCU and the Star Wars side of the universe. Now, the Star Wars side was already having trouble because Kathleen Kennedy was not the best pick to replace Lucas. That being said, I know everybody wants to blame Disney for that. That was already in the works before the Disney buyout happened. And so, for everybody that wants to sit there and just blame Disney, the Kathleen Kennedy thing was not Disney's fault. Lucas handpicked Kathleen Kennedy to succeed.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And so, and the funny thing is that look at, if you look at Star Wars, since they've had their big failures and they kind of stopped making movies, Star Wars has improved, which is true. Even though The Acolyte, not the best example.
No, definitely not the best example at all. But
but if you look
overall,
but if you look at The Mandalorian and Andor, as much as I complain about Andor, quality-wise, it's a good show.
Agreed.
Ahsoka, I enjoyed. Obi-Wan, I enjoyed. I know most people like to scoff at Obi-Wan, but I thought it was a decent show.
I kind of did too. There were elements in the very few beginning the beginning chapter 1 and 2. I think I didn't care for, but I thought it nailed a lot of the landing the rest of the way. I did. Yeah. My wife and I rewatched the last episode at least twice that I can think of, and I think we might even watch it the third time. It was amazing, the big encounter with Vader and whatnot. So you got to give it better credit than I think it deserves.
And Thomas, here's the thing about Kennedy and Lucasfilm. Yes, Kennedy has been working with George Lucas for as long as George Lucas was a thing. George Lucas and Spielberg were tight.
Exactly.
But here's the problem that a lot of people, where they lose sight of this, is that Lucas and Spielberg were the creative force behind Star Wars and the various Steven Spielberg properties, where Kennedy was the logistics person. Kennedy was the person who would secure the locations, who would get make sure that they could get all the permits, despite being in a country that doesn't give you permits. They could get an entire crew moved from Los Angeles to Brazil to shoot one scene and then back to Los Angeles in a reasonable amount of time and stuff. That was Kennedy's ace in the hole.
Don't dogpile, everybody. Hypno Amber says, I like The Acolyte, that it was trying something new for Star Wars. Absolutely. She then continues with The Acolyte didn't work, but it was something new. I agree. Salty and I both said it was trying to do something new, but then didn't do it all the way or didn't commit or
Right.
whatever. Had its issues. Then you see something like Agatha where you're like, man, this thing,
Yeah,
they know what they're doing.
and Penguin as well. If
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
Penguin is a show that focuses in on a classic villain, and
So,
yeah,
real quick, Thomas Potts, off topic, Mr. Know-It-All, what did you think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? This is, after all, open mic, by the way, so that's why I'm like, let's go.
yeah,
I think Salty didn't like it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I liked the idea of it when it started. I think once they firmly were like, we're separate from the MC, and once it didn't go like it was supposed to, I think that's when it started to fall apart. I liked it became, don't get me wrong, it was still a fun show. I had to say to myself, well, this is no longer connected. I have to watch it as its own thing. And then it felt like all those diet Batman shows we'd gotten for years, like Birds of Prey. It just felt off. Having Coulson there didn't help. And so then, but the first couple seasons when it was connected to the MCU, like with that whole connection with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America and stuff, that was really exciting to be like, wow, this is all, because it was the early days of, look, it's all connected somehow. It had the same vibe that I had for Wanda when it first came out, WandaVision. So yeah, that was just to kind of throw that out there.
you're right that I didn't care for the show very much in that because if you're going to do a show called Agents of Shield, I want it to be directly connected to the MCU. I don't want
Right.
to. I
Which
don't.
you thought they were going to do because they had Samuel L. Jackson cameo in the first episode to tell them what their orders were. And I
Right.
thought, this is awesome.
So yeah, I did not care for the fact that they did the separation thing, and that the show just felt like, well, they're trying to come up with a way to make some money off the Coulson character.
Yeah,
You know,
that's how it felt for us too. Seriously, I
um,
love that actor. By the way, I love him. I think he's wonderful.
and so yeah, and that's the problem. And notice Coulson never made an appearance in the MCU after his death in the first Avengers film, making him one of the only people who permanently died.
Yeah,
Uh, but
in comics ever.
yeah, but the thing is that but you bring him back in a show and like he's supposedly wandering around on doing all these hijinks and nobody knows he's still alive.
Agreed.
You know,
Creep. I liked Luke Cage also. I was also annoyed that it got canceled. I felt like it needed a third season, or it needed another season to cleanse the palate of where it ended, or at least to show us where it was going. I know where it was going because I know I was a fan of the comics briefly, so I know where him becoming the new boss of that area. I know what that. I've seen that storyline. It's a wonderful one. I wish Luke Cage could have gotten more opportunity to at least get him back to being himself. Heroes for Hire was the goal, and that would have been great. But also, the guy who plays Iron Fist was kind of real weak sauce. So I don't know. It's rough.
right? That's the problem. Now they did kind of recanonize all the Netflix Defender shows.
So yes, they have. My question is, I wonder if that includes
Right.
what's his face?
So
'Cause
they
I think
could
they've
bring,
only,
yes, they could bring Luke Cage back.
yeah,
You know,
he's busy with Evil right now, unless that show's over.
well, no, Evil. The last season of the Evil was the last season.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
No, Stanley, the chick is coming back. Jessica Jones has been confirmed. I think she's gonna cameo either in an episode of Daredevil or a future thing of Daredevil involved. So she will. Daredevil, just like it was in Netflix.
Lobezal's Punisher is back. So that
Yes, he's in this season. He's in
yeah.
Daredevil Born Again.
So yeah,
I feel like he's gonna.
recanonized all of that. So
Yeah.
they definitely now, and I agree with you by the way that Iron Fist was complete weak sauce. However, given the MCU treatment, I think they could fix Iron Fist.
I think you could too. I
Yeah.
think you fix them, and the comics has a culturally more appropriate version recently that they introduced that's doing very well. So you
But
can even have Danny Ketch be, because they've shown multiple Iron Fists in the comics in the past. You could have him be the previous one who whatever, and then you bring in a new one or something, whatever.
Now, but even if you keep the same actor and everything because you want consistency,
Which, by the way,
think about Iron Fist in Shang-Chi 2. and the potential there. And because the martial arts in Iron Fist were lame, but that's because Netflix put zero effort into it. And
Yeah,
so
I've heard the story. They were coming off of something else, and there was like no budget or time. So what it is everybody was over there working on, because they filmed. Netflix tried to do similar to what Marvel was doing. Netflix needed time to film they were already filming Defenders, and when they were still at the same time they were filming the first season of Iron Fist. So all the choreography people and all the production time and effort was over there on Defenders, and they were left with nothing. Like they had to come up with stuff by themselves on the fly, and so it was like, what do you do? You know.
So now that you've got Marvel level coordination going on, I think you could make a good Iron Fist.
I do too. I do too.
And yeah, Stan, I think that the fight scenes in Shang-Chi were among the best in the MCU.
Bro,
and
makes the whole thing immensely rewatchable.
Yeah, the bus scene, the scaffolding scene,
the bus scene. Oh,
yeah,
chef's kiss.
And that's funny. Stanley just said the exact same thing: bus scene and scaffolding scene. Great classic martial arts scenes. And the final battle, while yes, it was a very Marvel-esque final battle because you had lots of CG and explosions and stuff, but it was still good. And so I thought that Shang-Chi was a solid film. I think that it came out at a horrible time because COVID was in full swing when that movie came out.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Shang-Chi not making a ton of money was really because the movie sucked as much as because COVID was in full swing.
Agreed. I agree with that.
But I also think Shang-Chi would be better as a Disney Plus series. And in fact, I think what could be really interesting would be to do an Iron Fist Shang-Chi series. Where, like, say, Iron Fist wants to go back to Tan Lo and finds that it's been destroyed, and Shang-Chi and the two is there, and they work together to try and find out what's behind all this or something, So I think that there's a lot of potential there.
And this is what I'll firmly believe is that Shang-Chi was one of the best MCU movies since Endgame. And I absolutely got to agree with that.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely in the upper echelon of post-Endgame films because, when you look at movies like The Eternals, which was just so boring.
The thing is, it was pretty. It was,
it was beautiful.
They wanted to say something, but it was not what any of us wanted to hear or were prepared to hear.
You know what really pissed me off about it was that Celestials look so cool.
Yeah.
And yet they're in a boring movie. And I was like, how do you do that? How do you have these things that dwarf Galactus and look good doing it be in a boring movie?
Agreed.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's rough.
Yeah. So, but The Eternals should have been a series because you could have done one episode for each character's introduction and backstory and all that, and then bring them together because of the mystery. But no, instead we got the mess of a movie that we got. But yeah, it's not, Shang-Chi was not a dumpster fire like The Eternals. It wasn't just meh like the Marvels.
Stanley says, I love that Camille Ninjani got into Marvel shape for the movie, and they didn't even give him a shirtless scene.
Yeah, that was actually kind of funny because he got ripped.
He was, abs, the whole 9 yards, and then nope, nothing.
I don't know if you've seen the pitch meeting for that, but
I love it.
Yeah, he's like, you're gonna be really funny. Let's not give him a topless scene. So.
I love that so much.
But yeah, I think that there's potential in the Eternals, but the writing was just really, really bad.
Agreed.
And I like Doctor Strange too a lot, even though I know a lot of people didn't.
Ouch, Creed, be nice. Oh,
wow.
Why would you? God.
The Eternals isn't that bad.
I was gonna say, I was like, don't do it, dude.
I would say, yeah, it's compared to the Acolyte.
Even Mrs. Know It All was here. I heard her go, wow.
The only Marvel property that I think you could compare to the Acolyte would be Secret Invasion.
Agreed. I agree with that. Absolutely.
Secret Invasion is some dumpster fire writing right there, and the funny thing is, it doesn't even fit in the MCU. Like, if you look at Nick Fury before and after Secret Invasion, it's not the same guy.
No, he's a very different character.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange 2, okay. Multiverse of Madness was a tiny bit of a mess, but it wasn't an ugly mess.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of elements that really worked. I just wish they would have been strung together a little better. America Chavez felt like a MacGuffin rather than a character. And for me, the stark contrast between Wanda's shift, I don't mean the fact that, yes, at the end of WandaVision, she's exploring the book, obviously searching the multiverse, looking for her kid. But the level to which she broke bad felt incongruous with where we had left her.
It feels like we're missing something in between WandaVision and Doctor Strange.
You know, that's really what a lot of this phase has been for me.
Yeah.
My classic example is The Marvels. The Marvels itself is a functional film. I don't think it's amazing or great, but my problem with it was that they kept talking about other events that sounded way more interesting.
Right.
Like, why didn't I show movie? Where were we missed those adventures? I would have wanted to see those things. I don't know what, like, half of the best parts of it, honestly, were like we talked about, the Monica Rambeau character and, of course, Ms. Marvel. I thought that Brie Larson felt like a cardboard cutout in the movie. But overall, it's like, it just felt just out of place. Same thing, Eternals, out of place. How do you sit here, we're going to drop a scene where the Eternals explain why they were able to see, you know, how come they didn't help? Like, what are you talking about? No, you can't justify that.
Yeah, and that's the stupid thing about it, is that their explanation still doesn't fix the problem, because assuming that the Celestials, who are, of course, the most powerful beings in the universe
Ever.
Yeah, and so if the Celestials find out what Thanos is up to, they would have intervened directly.
Oh God, Thomas, why would you do it?
Oh, I think we should too, but you know.
Oh. Okay, fine. We should do it. All right.
But we'll have to wait until we don't have another series that we're current. You know, like obviously, you know, Penguin and
Just so you
Agatha.
know, all I hear upstairs is no.
Agatha wraps up next week. The Penguin, I think, the week after that, and then so when Lower Decks wraps, I don't know if there's going to be another show on. So that would probably be the
Briefly,
time.
though, I think we'll have a respite period. I say we do it then.
Yeah.
I am down for doing it. I'm down. In fact, what we'll probably do, truthfully, we'll do a live version with you guys, but I think we may do a longer, more full version for Patreon. I've been trying to find an excuse to do something for Patreon for you guys.
Yeah, we haven't done anything good for Patreon yet.
Yeah, and I want to do it. I want to do something really good because I feel like you guys deserve it. Yeah. And we can get away with a lot more there in terms of showing stuff.
Yeah, you know,
they won't suddenly pull your show.
Almost like OnlyFans.
We're not opening a NerdFights OnlyFans. Stop it. Anyways, all right, guys. Well, any other final thoughts?
Well, you see, I don't want to answer.
Why?
Because I'm afraid you're going to cut me off.